What if someone told you they had met Jesus, not in a dream, not in a church, but in a near-death experience that changed their life forever? Would you believe them? This is the story of David, an ordinary man who found himself in the presence of the extraordinary, standing face to face with Jesus Christ. It's a story of redemption, revelation, and a love that transcends anything this world can offer. David wasn't someone you'd call deeply religious. Like many, he believed in God but struggled to connect that belief to everyday life. He was busy juggling work, family, and the demands of modern living. He didn't often think about eternity, let alone what happens after death. But all of that changed one fateful day when an unexpected tragedy brought him to the edge of the unknown. His experience wasn't just life-changing, it was soul-changing. And as he recounts what happened during those moments when his body lay lifeless, it's impossible not to feel the weight of the message he brought back. This story isn't just about David, it's about hope, purpose, and the God who sees every single one of us. It started as an unremarkable day. David had left work later than usual, distracted by the endless list of things he needed to get done. He barely noticed the sunset fading behind him as he drove down a familiar stretch of road. But in the blink of an eye, his life was turned upside down. A car swerved into his lane. There was no time to react. Metal crunched, glass shattered, and silence followed. For the witnesses who rushed to the scene, it was clear. David's injuries were severe. But while his body lay broken in the wreckage, something far more incredible was happening to his soul. David described what happened next as both bewildering and beautiful. One moment, he was surrounded by the chaos of the crash. The next, he found himself enveloped in a light so brilliant it defied earthly explanation. It wasn't harsh or blinding, but warm, alive, and comforting. He couldn't feel his body anymore. There was no pain, no fear, just peace. As he tried to comprehend where he was, he noticed the light wasn't just light. It seemed to pulse with life, as if every particle carried a message of love and serenity. Then he saw him. At first, David thought he might be imagining things, but as the figure stepped closer, there was no denying who he was. Jesus stood before him, not as a distant, abstract deity, but as a living, radiant presence. Every detail of him radiated love, from the light in his eyes to the way he moved with purpose and grace. David didn't need an introduction. He knew, deep in his soul, that he was standing before the Savior. And overcome, he fell to his knees. Tears streamed down his face, not out of fear, but from the overwhelming sense of being fully known and fully loved. "You are loved," Jesus said. The words weren't just spoken, they resonated within David like a melody his heart had always longed to hear. In that moment, every doubt, every insecurity he had ever carried dissolved. He felt weightless, as though the burdens of his life had been lifted in an instant. Jesus extended his hand to David, and together they began to move, not walking in the way we understand, but gliding effortlessly through a realm unlike anything David had ever imagined. He later described it as the outskirts of heaven, a place teeming with life and beauty beyond comprehension. The colors were unlike anything on earth, more vibrant and alive. The trees shimmered with an inner glow, their leaves singing praises to their creator. Rivers flowed like liquid light, and the air carried a music that seemed to resonate with every part of him. It was as though every element of this place was worshiping God. In the distance, David saw figures, radiant beings filled with joy. They weren't just existing, they were thriving, basking in the glory of God's presence. Every moment in this place felt purposeful, as though it was infused with the very essence of love and belonging. Jesus stopped and looked at David. His gaze was tender yet piercing, as if he could see every corner of David's soul. "This is what I've prepared for those who love me," Jesus said, "but your time here is not yet." David wanted to stay. How could he not? The peace, the joy, the love, it was everything his heart had ever longed for. But Jesus had more to show him. In an instant, David's life flashed before him. It wasn't like a movie reel or a slideshow. It was deeper, more profound. He saw moments he had forgotten, times when he felt alone, unaware of God's presence. Jesus revealed that in those moments he had been there, walking beside David, even carrying him when the burdens became too heavy. Every joy, every sorrow, every moment of David's life had been intricately woven into a greater plan. "You have a purpose," Jesus said. "Go back and tell them about me." The next thing David knew, he was gasping for air. He was no longer in the radiant light, but back in his broken body, lying in a hospital bed. The pain was excruciating, but his heart was filled with peace. He knew he had been given a second chance, and he knew why. Doctors and nurses marveled at his recovery. They had expected the worst, but David defied every prognosis. While his physical healing took time, his soul had been forever transformed. He carried with him a new sense of purpose, an unshakable peace, and a burning desire to share what he had experienced. David didn't keep his story to himself. At first, he was hesitant. Would people believe him? Would they dismiss it as a hallucination or a near-death phenomenon? But as he began to share his encounter, something incredible happened. People listened, some wept. Others found their own faith rekindled. His story wasn't about proving anything, it was about pointing others to Jesus. David spoke of the love he had felt, the hope he had seen, and the purpose he had been given. And as he shared, lives began to change, not because of him, but because of the one who had sent him back. David's story is more than just an extraordinary experience. It's a reminder of the hope we all have in Jesus Christ. His encounter revealed a truth that transcends life's hardships. We are deeply loved, purposefully created, and never alone. Whether you're struggling with doubt, searching for meaning, or simply trying to make sense of life, David's message is clear. Jesus is real. His love is real. And he is waiting for you with open arms. Before the encounter ended, Jesus impressed something profound on David's heart. Every life has infinite value. No matter how broken, lost, or insignificant you feel, you are seen, known, and cherished by God. He created you for a reason, and your story is part of his greater plan. David's encounter with Jesus wasn't just for him, it was for all of us. If his story has touched you, consider what it might mean for your own life. Have you felt the pull of God's love? Do you long for a deeper connection with him? David's challenge to everyone who hears his story is this: seek Jesus. He is closer than you think, and he is ready to meet you wherever you are. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Together we can remind the world of the hope and love found in Jesus Christ.